Your subject lines are one of the main reasons that someone is going to open an email from you. And yes, your brand name and your preview text is also going to play a role. But at the end of the day, the subject line is what is going to make your open rates really go up. And so in this video, I really want to break down subject lines 101 and basically what are the best practices for subject lines? How can you be thinking about them more strategically and helping to increase your open rates? I'm also later in this video going to be breaking down my top 10 opened emails and what the subject lines were for those emails, and that's sending it to an audience of over 20,000 active subscribers. So if you're curious to learn more about that, make sure you keep watching because I think you're going to find it really interesting in seeing what my top open rates have been for certain emails. First up, what even are open rates and how does your subject line affect it? So open rates are essentially, if you're not sure, how many people have opened your email versus how many people are on your email list. So for example, let's say you have 100 people on your email list and 40 of them open a specific email. That means you have a 40% open rate, right? Because 40% of the subscribers opened up your email. And within Flowdesk, that's the email marketing platform I use that I recommend, I absolutely love. It actually will tell you very visibly what your open rates are for each of your emails. So it's super easy to find, super easy to see. If you're interested in checking out Flowdesk, there will be a link below for half off your first year and a free trial. And so subject lines, like I mentioned, are one of the main reasons that someone will open one email versus another. So let's talk about what are some of the best practices for your subject lines in order to help increase those open rates. First up, the magic spot when it comes to your length of your subject line is typically 7 words. There was a lot of research done, and I can't remember the exact study. I read this a really long time ago about how 7 words is the most opened subject line length. And ideally you don't want it much longer than that, because when you think about email platforms that people are opening emails on or viewing emails on, usually if it's longer than 9 or 10 words, it's gonna start to get cut off and they can't even read the entire subject line. And so it doesn't even matter if you have a super long subject line, if they can't read it, right? On some different platforms, especially mobile platforms. And so that's really important to keep in mind. Ideally, you want it around 7 words. Usually I aim for anywhere from 5 to 10 words and try not to make it much lengthier than that unless I absolutely have to. Another best practice is to limit it to 1 to 2 emojis max. As you'll see in a little bit, I actually don't see emojis dramatically increase my subject lines in general, but they can be very impactful for adding a little bit of character into your subject lines without having to say more. But try to limit it and don't have a ton of emojis because otherwise it's gonna start to look a little bit spammy, right? So that leads me to my next best practice, which is keep your subject lines free of spammy language. We don't want to have too much 50% off sale is ending in 3 hours, buy now, all in the same subject line. You can still use some of that terminology, but especially if your email is in good standing, your email domain is in good standing, then you don't have as much risk of it being put into spam by different email providers. But I usually try to just make sure I'm not doing going over the top with different spammy language. Otherwise you risk being put in spam versus being seen in people's inboxes. And then besides those things, I always just try to aim to make my subject lines clear, genuine, and not use clickbait. At the end of the day, even if your subject lines, if all that they are is just very simply stating what the email is going to be about, I think that's great. And I think a lot of times people really appreciate that they know exactly what they're getting if they're gonna open the email. And if you're someone who wants an even deeper dive on emails and what you should be putting in emails, subject lines, all of those things, and talking more about email strategy with that, be sure to watch my free email class. I'll put a link right below this video. It's gonna walk you even deeper in how to not only create strategic emails, but strategic emails that actually make you money in your business. So if you have any interest in that free class, it's about an hour. I think you're really gonna love it. Link will be right below. Okay, so now let's break down my top 10 open rates, the top 10 emails that have been opened that were sent to my entire audience. So if I'm looking down, it's because I'm referencing these different emails, and these are emails that were sent to my entire audience pretty much. So there are emails that I have that have higher open rates than these, upwards of 70 or 80%, but a lot of those emails were sent to very, very segmented people, whether it was a very segmented wait list or something like that, where it would make a lot of sense that it would be super high, right? And so these are emails that were just emails that were more newsletters or sales emails that were sent out to the majority of our email list. So the top one is actually a combination of 2 emails I put into one because the top 2 were both emails that were updates or fixes to emails that we had just sent like within that day, which is kind of funny to think about. And I personally would never use this strategy to actually increase my open rates. Like, I never send out an email being like, let's make it like an update email to increase open rates. Like, I just don't do that. But these were genuine, like we either had an update we needed to update people on based on the last email that we forgot to include in the last email, an important detail, or a fix that we like had the wrong link to something in the previous email and we needed to send them the right link. So those two emails, the exact subject lines for those were in, and we'll put these all on the screen too so you can see what they are. But the first one was in parentheses update, and then it said want to be a beta tester for a brand new course. That was the subject line. So having that like update, like they would have just got an email without the update. It was the same subject line. And then this one where we added update actually had the highest open rate of like any email we've sent to our whole list, which is really funny to think about. Second one is correct links, smiley face. You've only got 3 more hours left for this. So kind of like, obviously, again, I would personally never do this as an actual strategy, knowing that like I'm gonna put the wrong link and then send the correct link. I just would not do that. But it is funny how it was like the second highest open rate. I guess I should say the open rate too. The last one was 47.7% and this one was 46.3%. All right, so that was kind of 2 and 1. Second highest opened email, well, I guess these aren't necessarily in direct order, they're pretty much in direct order, but the second highest open email, the subject line was how I made back my $7,500 investment. Applications are open, 46.4%, which actually tells me that my audience is interested in numbers and getting money back, so that was very interesting. Third one is are you ready to fall in love with Instagram, and then a little heart, that was 46.3%. Number 4, a very honest message inside with a little like eye emoji, 46%. Next one, I guess that's how you would say that. I was trying to like say it different. Content photo secrets are inside, 45.9%. I've never posted on Instagram every day, ... 45.6%. How to get out of the Instagram rat race, that should be 45.4%. And then download the free Instagram story templates right now, 45.6%. Next one, incoming, huge news inside, 45.4%. And then the last one here, last call, 3 hours left. And then it has 2 emojis. It has a mail icon with an arrow that points to dollars, okay? And that was 45.3%. Okay, so here are some of my observations from the subject lines, just things I'm noticing that are like trends in my top subject lines. That again, emails that are like updates or fixes to past emails tend to get opened more because people are curious like, oh, how did you mess up or what do you need to update, right? And so again, I would never like do this as an actual strategy, but that's just the truth. A lot of people will open those. Another thing that I mentioned is that numbers tend to perform well, like that numbers getting my $7,500 investment back, or that email that said 3 hours left, or download my 10 free templates. Like using numbers is actually very impactful. My next observation is that in general, emojis don't necessarily mean higher open rates. Most of these subject lines didn't have emojis. However, I will say the kind of like the exception to that was that 10th subject line where it said last call, 3 hours left, and then it had the mail with an arrow to the money. I do think that that played a huge role in that being one of our top open rates, because we send this kind of email pretty frequently. Like at the end of a launch, we say like last call, 3 hours left, or only 3 hours left, or 3, whatever it is. And so we send these all the time. So I'm like, why is this one in one of our top opened emails? And I think it was because of those emojis, like email to money, right? This is from I believe this was an email from our course launch for Inbox to Income, our email marketing course, which is why we did that email to money like emoji situation. And so I think that made it have a higher open rate. Like people did see that correlation and instantly get that and be like, ooh, what is she talking about? 3 hours left, right? So it is just very interesting because typically these types of emails have like lower than average open rates for us, like closer to 30 to 35%, because a lot of people at that point, like either the 3 hours has passed since I sent the email or they already know what it's about. So like typically just has lower open rates. So Yeah, I just thought that was very interesting. And then the other observation that I had that I thought was very interesting is basically using subject lines to call out not just pain points people have, but what people are actually desiring at the end of the day. It seems to be very impactful. So for example, the subject lines, ready to fall in love with Instagram again, or the content photo secrets are inside, or I've never posted on Instagram every day, or get out of the Instagram rat race. Like those last two are a little bit more of a pain point, but it's alluding to like, you don't have to do this thing in order to, show up on Instagram, or, if you're ready to actually fall in love with Instagram again, like here's what I want to share with you, right? Can be very impactful. A lot of our subject lines I just noticed were kind of along those lines of alluding to what people are actually desiring and what they actually want. If you want to go even deeper with email strategy here, I would love to invite you to watch that free email class that I mentioned earlier. I think you're really going to love it because it goes even deeper than anything we've talked about in this video about how to actually make money with the emails that you're sending for your business and to be strategic with it. So it's about an hour long. It's super fun. I absolutely love hosting the class. It's an on-demand replay, so you can watch it anytime. So anytime you're watching this video, you can grab it at that link, watch right now, head on over there. And yeah, if you have any questions about anything we chatted about in this video, as always, feel free to comment below, and I'll see you guys in next week's video on Tuesday. Bye guys.